I'm Sqn Ldr Rana Chhina, and I'm the Secretary of the USI Center for Military History and Conflict Studies. I'm now going to be talking briefly about the cradle of Indian strategic thought, the United Service Institution of India. Now in 2020, last year, the United Service Institution of India, or the USI as it's known, completed 150 years of its existence. This unique institution is one of the oldest military think tanks in the world, and certainly the oldest in Asia. The USI came into being at Shimla, the erstwhile summer capital of British India, in 1870. Sir John Lawrence had at that point just relinquished his position as the Viceroy of India, and the ill-fated Lord Mayo now filled the post. And as Viceroy, he took the capital of the country to Shimla in 1869, including the Viceroy's Executive Council, his Secretariat, Army Headquarters, and other departments of government. The USI came into being in the following year. It was the creation of the energetic and ambitious Quartermaster General, or the QMG of India, Colonel, later Major General Sir Charles MacGregor. It was founded initially, and I quote, for the promotion of naval and military art, science and literature, unquote. The objective was duly modified over time to, quote, the furtherance of interest and knowledge in the art, science and literature of national security in general, and the defense services in particular, unquote. The USI was raised on the model of the Royal United Service Institution of London, or RUSI, with the council stating that, quote, the only object of the institution is to do good to the services at large, to officers, seamen and soldiers themselves, and to the government they serve, unquote. The form of the proceedings adopted was that of the Royal Artillery Institution, and the USI Library, which you can see now, also served in its early years as the back office of the intelligence branch of Army Headquarters. Military intelligence was then a function of the QMG, and MacGregor was responsible for laying its foundations in India. Now, MacGregor conceived the idea to establish an institution for the Indian Army similar to that of the RUSI at Whitehall in London in 1867, before embarking on service to Abyssinia, but it was only when he returned in 1870 that he was finally able to bring it to fruition. During the USI's first year, he served as its secretary, and the first annual report in 1871 proved it to be a worthy match for its older sister institute in England. Now, after Charles MacGregor passed away in 1887, the USI instituted the MacGregor Medal in his memory, this is awarded for the best military reconnaissance or journey of exploration or survey in remote areas of India, which produced new information of value for the defense of India. It became the de facto medal of the great game between Russia and Imperial Britain, and is the only medal from that era that is still awarded today. And among its roll of recipients are names such as Sir Francis Younghusband, who led the expedition into Tibet in 1903, and later Ord Wingett of Chindit's fame. After independence, the medal has been given to stalwarts such as General Zoru Bakshi and the famed mountaineer Colonel Narendra Kumar, whose exploits on the Siachen Glacier are the stuff of legend, among others. The medal is now awarded for outstanding adventure activities, such as the award to Commander Dilip Donde, who completed a solo unassisted circumnavigation of the globe in a sailboat. The other legacy which the USI prides itself is on having the oldest military journal in continuous print anywhere in the world, barring perhaps the Journal of the RUSI in London. The RUSI predates the USI by nearly 40 years, and its journal came into being in 1857, whereas the USI journal has had an unbroken run since it was first published in 1871. This USI journal has rightly been referred to as the flagship of the institution, and its contents constitute a wonderful and invaluable resource for those who wish to acquaint themselves with the thoughts and concerns of the Indian military and defense establishment over the past century and a half. They represent a fascinating insight into myriad aspects of the history, organization, and ethos of the Indian Armed Forces in general, and India's security and strategic concerns in particular. The contents also help trace the manner in which these concerns have changed and evolved with the passage of time. After independence in 1947, the institution came to be known for a year as the United Service Institution of India and Pakistan, and the journals for 1948 were published as such, even while both countries were locked in a struggle for control of Jammu and Kashmir. From its location on the mall at Shimla, the USI later moved to Kashmir House in New Delhi in 1953, where it was nursed through its critical decades after independence by the indefatigable efforts of Colonel Pyara Lal, who served as the secretary of the institution from 1957 to 1987. It has since been served by a number of equally dedicated and distinguished individuals who have guided it from strength to strength, including Major General Samir Sinha, Lieutenant General Satish Nambiar, and Lieutenant General P.K. Singh. And the current director is Major General B.K. Sharma. The USI then moved to its present location in Rautullara Marg in June 1996. And apart from its journal, the USI boasts of one of the finest military libraries in the country, with holdings dating back to the 18th century and India's security and strategic concerns in particular. Other branches within the USI are the courses section, the USI Center for Strategic Studies and Simulation, or CS3, and the Center for Military History and Conflict Studies, or CMHCS, which was previously known as the Center for Armed Forces Historical Research. Now, the professional advancement of officers has always been an important activity of the USI, and the courses section is well known in the Indian Armed Forces as one of the oldest distance learning centers within the Indian military establishment. Numerous officers have benefited from its guidance in preparing for the staff college and promotion exams. The CS3 came into existence in 1995. In 2005, it expanded its original activity of granting research fellowships to carry out military-oriented studies that provided reasoned policy perspectives with practical options. It also conducts strategic gaming and simulation exercises and undertakes contractual studies outsourced by the defense services. And lastly, the CMHCS was established in 2000 at the behest of the three services, with the object of promoting interest and research into various aspects of the history of the Indian Armed Forces. And apart from rendering human service to the subject of Indian military history, it has been at the forefront of remembrance and commemoration activities involving the Indian Armed Forces both in India and abroad. The institution is governed by a council composed partly of elected members and partly of ex officio appointments from the three services, and the headquarters IDS. The Chief of Integrated Defence Staff to Chairman Chiefs of Defence Staff is the ex officio President of the USI Council. Having briefly looked back at the past and covered the history of the unique institution, it is but befitting that the director of the institution should now look at the present and the way ahead. Thank you.